Humility works in the summer. It works in the fall. Humility works in the spring. Humility works in the winter. Don't gas your kids up too much.
The sports media world caught fire after Colin Cowherd found himself trending across every major platform following his comments about Shedeur Sanders, comments that aged badly in real time once the lights came on and the game actually got played. For weeks, Cowherd had positioned Shedeur as overhyped, propped up by branding, and not yet ready to dominate at the highest level, framing the narrative around polish versus substance.
But I will tell you, watching Shedeur, I said it last week, I'll say it again, it reminds me of the Colorado Shedeur. I think my take is on Shedeur, he's good enough to start in the league.
That talk spread fast, getting recycled by debate shows, clipped on social media, and echoed by critics already waiting for a moment to say the hype train had derailed. Then came the matchup that flipped the script. Against the Tennessee Titans, Shedeur delivered a performance that cut straight through the noise, turning a media storyline into a public embarrassment for anyone who had doubted him loudly. As sources claim, the reaction inside sports media circles was immediate and tense. Analysts who had leaned into Cowherd's framing suddenly shifted tone, while highlight clips of Shedeur standing tall in collapsing pockets, delivering darts under pressure, and controlling tempo flooded timelines.
3 is the backside right now. Man, that's awesome. We see that from high-level starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Very well done by Shedeur. Changes the protection here.
Cowherd's earlier statements resurfaced instantly, stitched side by side with game footage, making the contrast impossible to ignore. By the time post-game coverage rolled around, the pressure was heavy. Cowherd addressed it head-on during his show, offering what many interpreted as a rare walkback, acknowledging that Shedeur had proven something real under NFL-level heat. The apology didn't sound scripted or polished, it sounded like damage control mixed with reluctant respect. That moment alone fueled the scandal because Cowherd is known for doubling down, not backing off. Sports radio producers, podcast hosts, and former players all jumped into the mix, calling the moment symbolic of a larger shift in how Shedeur is being viewed. No longer just a coach's son, no longer just a flashy name. This was a quarterback stacking evidence on the field, while the loudest critic had to adjust the tone.
I do. He's playing faster. That's probably the biggest gripe of him coming out of school. So this is the traditional under center bootleg. The big thing is after the fake, you gotta snap your head, find that end man. He does.
The timing made it even louder, because it happened during a week when Shedeur's name was already buzzing in draft circles, with scouts reportedly revising early grades upward based on composure and processing speed. The gap between media skepticism and on-field reality snapped shut in one afternoon, and the fallout turned a regular sports take into a full-blown media moment that refused to die down. The performance itself is what made the apology unavoidable. From the opening drive, Shedeur Sanders looked locked in, calm and surgical, carving up defensive looks that were clearly designed to confuse and pressure him. The Titans threw disguised coverages, delayed blitzes, and collapsing edges, yet Shedeur kept delivering clean throws with timing that screamed NFL ready.
You know, my takeaway on him is if you look mostly like you look in college, then I think it's going to work. So I think he's a franchise quarterback.
As sources claim, multiple scouts in attendance noted how quickly he adjusted protections at the line, something critics had previously said he couldn't do consistently. Every completion chipped away at the old narrative. 3rd and long conversions, tight window throws over the middle, and a red zone sequence where he threaded a pass between 2 defenders put the stadium in a different kind of quiet. This wasn't luck. This was command. By halftime, the stat line was already loud, but it was the body language that told the real story. No panic, no rushed mechanics, just control. Social media flipped fast. Clips labeled "Cowherd aging like milk" started trending within minutes. Former players jumped online pointing out footwork, eye discipline, and toughness in the pocket. When the game ended, the numbers backed it up. High completion percentage, multiple scoring drives, 0 wasted possessions, and total control of pace.
Get a guy early because of that. A quarter of a snaps, the offensive line pass protection is so freaking bad that you're like, I don't care who you are, you're not doing anything with it.
The same traits Cowherd had questioned were now the headline. That's why the apology mattered. It wasn't about being wrong, it was about being publicly outpaced by reality. Cowherd addressed it directly, saying Shedeur had outplayed the take and admitted that the performance forced a reevaluation. That line alone became a clip that ran everywhere, Sports shows replayed it non-stop. Fans saw it as validation. Critics saw it as retreat. Either way, the power dynamic shifted. The quarterback had the leverage now. This moment also reopened conversations about how young quarterbacks, especially those with loud last names, get judged differently. As sources claim, league insiders pointed out that similar mistakes from other prospects were framed as growing pains, while Shedeur's were labeled as proof of ceiling. The Titans game didn't just change one narrative, it exposed how fast opinions collapse when preparation meets opportunity. Every drive felt like a rebuttal. Every completed pass felt like a receipt. By the time Cowherd spoke, the apology wasn't optional anymore. It was necessary. The street-level takeaway was simple. Talking stops when proof shows up. And that Sunday, Shedeur brought proof with interest. What made this situation even louder was the ripple effect across the entire sports media ecosystem. Once Cowherd shifted, others followed. Analysts who had leaned into skepticism suddenly reframed their language using phrases like growth, maturity, and next-level processing. That pivot didn't go unnoticed. Fans clipped old takes and lined them up against new praise, turning timelines into highlight reels of contradiction. As sources claim, this wasn't just about one game, it was about momentum.
In place to act like that as a quarterback. I think everything that you do when you're a quarterback, I don't care if you're first, second, or third, is a job interview.
The Titans' performance landed during a stretch where Shedeur had already been trending upward, stacking solid outings and showing consistency that critics said didn't exist. That's why the apology felt symbolic. It marked the moment when resistance cracked. Even former defensive players weighed in, pointing out that Shedeur's pocket presence was translating against speed and size, not just college-level chaos. The narrative shifted from, can he handle it, to, how high is the ceiling? That's a massive jump. Behind the scenes, draft chatter reportedly heated up. Scouts began discussing scheme fits, arm talent versus anticipation, and leadership traits that don't show up on stat sheets. The scandal angle came from how fast the media had to reverse. Cowherd's brand is built on strong opinions, and strong opinions come with consequences when reality swings back. Sports culture thrives on receipts, and this moment produced plenty. Clips of Shedeur calmly answering post-game questions, deflecting praise, and staying locked on the next week added fuel. No clapping back, no chest pounding, just quiet confidence. That contrast made Cowherd's earlier framing look louder than necessary. As sources claim, producers love moments like this because they create long-tail content, debate segments, reaction videos, podcasts, all feeding off one apology that never would have happened without that performance. This wasn't a manufactured scandal. It was a collision between commentary and execution. The street-level respect came from how Shedeur handled it. No response shots, no subtweets, just film. That's why the apology stuck. It wasn't forced by outrage. It was forced by evidence. And once evidence hits, opinions either adapt or get buried. Cowherd adapted. Others followed. The spotlight stayed on Shedeur, who walked out of that week with more than a win. He walked out with control of the narrative. The family angle added another layer to the situation, amplifying the spotlight even more. With Shedeur Sanders always looming in the background of any Shedeur conversation, critics had previously leaned on the idea that exposure came from the last name rather than performance. The Titans game cut through that argument clean. No sideline theatrics, no hype-driven moments, just quarterback play. As sources claim, former NFL executives praised how Shedeur handled pressure without relying on improvisation alone, something that separates highlight players from long-term starters. That praise echoed across platforms, pushing Cowherd's apology into a bigger conversation about evaluation bias. Street-level fans didn't miss the irony. The same voices that once said, "Prove it," were now saying he proved it. That flip is why the scandal stuck. Not because of the apology itself, but because of what forced it. Shedeur didn't chase validation. Validation chased him down. The Titans' defense wasn't soft. They came in prepared, physical, and aggressive, and still got dissected. That matters. As sources claim, opposing coaches took notice, breaking down film and acknowledging how quickly Shedeur recognized coverage rotations. Those details don't trend easily, but they shape careers. Cowherd acknowledging that shift publicly signaled something bigger than one take being wrong. It signaled a recalibration. The media had to catch up to the tape, and once that happens, the tone changes everywhere. Draft boards move, talking points shift, the conversation matures. That's why this moment is still buzzing days later. It represents the moment when noise met discipline and lost. For Shedeur, it was another step in separating brand from ball. For Cowherd, it was a rare moment of humility in a space built on certainty. And for the audience, it was proof that performance still matters more than volume. The street logic stays undefeated. Play well, and everything else quiets down. That Sunday proved it loud and clear. As the dust settled, the aftermath kept rolling because moments like this don't disappear overnight. Clips of Cowherd's apology continued circulating, paired with slow-motion throws and breakdowns of Shedeur's mechanics, keeping the story alive well into the following news cycle. As sources claim, even league insiders began floating Shedeur's name more aggressively in quarterback discussions, pointing to leadership traits and resilience under scrutiny. The apology became a turning point, a timestamp that marked when skepticism officially lost ground. That's why fans saw it as more than words. It was confirmation that the old narrative couldn't survive new evidence. Shedeur moved forward without acknowledging the noise, focusing on preparation and execution, which only added to the respect factor. Street culture respects silence backed by action. Meanwhile, Cowherd's brand took a hit and a pivot, showing that even the loudest voices have to adjust when reality steps in swinging. The entire situation became a case study in how fast sports narratives flip when preparation meets opportunity. No gimmicks, no shortcuts, just performance. That's why the moment stuck. That's why it keeps trending, and that's why it matters beyond one game. It showed that hype doesn't protect anyone, but discipline can silence anyone. As the season continues, this performance will be referenced again and again, not just for stats, but for what it forced out of the media. The apology wasn't the headline. The performance was. Everything else followed. The ripple effects from the apology didn't stop at television segments or trending clips. They immediately spilled into locker room talk, front office chatter, and betting markets across the league. Shedeur Sanders suddenly became a weekly focal point, not just a prospect with buzz, but a quarterback being discussed with real urgency. As sources claim, multiple teams quietly adjusted internal evaluations after the Titans game, emphasizing decision-making speed and toughness over flash. What stood out wasn't just the throws, but the way Shedeur absorbed hits, got back up, and stayed locked into the game plan. That composure under pressure is currency in pro football. Analysts began highlighting how defenders tried to bait mistakes, only to watch him take the safe completion or throw it away, denying the defense momentum. That restraint contradicted the earlier criticism that he played too risky. The apology from Colin Cowherd became a symbol of that contradiction collapsing. Around the league, veterans chimed in on podcasts, saying the performance showed grown man quarterbacking, not highlight hunting. Even opposing defensive backs admitted the preparation was obvious, noting how Shedeur anticipated rotations before they fully developed. That level of awareness doesn't come from hype, it comes from film study and reps. The media conversation followed suit. Suddenly the tone shifted from questioning leadership to praising command. Betting lines reflected the change too, with odds swinging in Shedeur's favor in future matchup projections. Fans noticed. The narrative no longer felt forced, it felt earned, and that's what made the earlier skepticism look reckless. This wasn't a one-drive flash or a lucky break. It was 4 quarters of control. Cowherd's apology echoed because it confirmed what the tape showed. The street takeaway was simple. When preparation meets opportunity, excuses disappear. The Titans game stripped away talking points and replaced them with receipts. That's why the reaction stayed loud. It wasn't about media drama anymore. It was about recalibrating respect. And once respect shifts, it's hard to take back. As the week rolled on, the conversation matured into something bigger than one analyst or one game. The moment became a reference point for how narratives form and how quickly they collapse when challenged by execution. Shedeur Sanders didn't just earn praise, he exposed a pattern. As sources claim, younger quarterbacks with strong branding often face harsher skepticism, especially when expectations are public and loud. The Titans' performance flipped that script. Coaches emphasized how Shedeur handled adversity mid-game, adjusting protections after early pressure and communicating calmly with linemen. That's not cosmetic leadership, that's operational control. Media outlets that once framed him as unproven now leaned into terms like efficient, poised, and NFL ready. The apology from Cowherd lingered as a reminder that commentary has to chase performance, not the other way around. Fans amplified that lesson, turning the moment into a wider critique of hot take culture. Clips of Shedeur calmly walking off the field contrasted sharply with earlier skepticism. reinforcing the idea that real confidence doesn't need volume. Front offices reportedly took notice, focusing less on last names and more on traits that win games in December and January. The scandal label stuck because it revealed how fragile loud opinions are when faced with disciplined execution. This wasn't about ego clashes, it was about accountability. Cowherd adjusted because the tape demanded it. That's rare. And that rarity made the moment resonate. For Shedeur, it was another brick laid quietly without celebration. For the media, it was a reminder that credibility isn't permanent. It's earned weekly. The story didn't need exaggeration, the facts carried it. A quarterback delivered, a critic recalibrated, and the audience watched a narrative reset in real time. Moments like this define seasons, not because of noise, but because of what they reveal. Execution still rules everything around it. For anyone tracking football culture, this was one of those moments that reshapes perception in real time. If this breakdown delivered value, support the work by hitting like and subscribing for more stories that cut through the noise and get straight to the truth.